Hi, I'm Preston Williams, and welcome to another edition of Jazz Talk. Today on our show, we are joined by one of the greatest vocalists in R&B, soul, and pop music. For the last 35 years, this lady has been on the scene, gracing us with her beauty and song. She's worked with many greats from the Gap Band, George Clinton, SOS, Natalie Cole, and Barry White, to name a few. She is a multi-instrumentalist, singer, vocalist, and record producer. Please welcome to Jazz Talk, the legendary Miss Penny Ford. Welcome.
Hey, peace.
Hey, Penny, it's so good to have you on. Like I mentioned, you've been on the scene for quite a while, and you've given us so much wonderful music. But I'm interested in knowing more about your humble beginnings and your background growing up. I understand that you're from Cincinnati, Ohio.
Cincinnati, represent. Yes, I am. I am from Cincinnati. Cincinnati is it represents as a small town, but that's because it has the largest distributor of consumer goods in the world there, Procter & Gamble. So we kind of represent as a small town, but we're actually a huge global town. But yeah, I love my hometown and I really miss it.
Yeah. So many, when you think of Cincinnati, so many great bands, just Ohio, period, have come out of there. And I've had many artists on the show that have come from there. But I'm interested in knowing, like I said, about your background. I understand your father's a big-time record executive producer, and your mother's an evangelist and singer. So I can see that the musicality coming from there. And I guess you got started as a youngster at age 5, playing piano? Tell us about that.
I did. Well, my grandparents raised me, so it wasn't like I was in a house full of music, although my parents were musicians. My grandparents wanted me to be a scholar because I was kind of smart too. But yeah, my dad produced most of the first James Brown stuff at King Records. And my mom was an artist on that label. So we were pretty involved. When I was a kid, I was around Bootsy and my father and brother. Well, my brother actually gave George his first job ever in the business. So the funk has been around, my family for a long time. But like I said, it must be in the blood because my parents weren't around. Yet when I was 5 years old, I was singing Sergio Mendes, Brazil 66. Oh, yeah. So we kind of knew what was going to be happening in my world from that. But yeah, I think Ohio is a wonderful place to be from. And then I think that the reason why there's so much talent and stuff like that coming from there is because there's really not a whole lot to do except for study and focus and become great. And, and the kind of desire to leave there and expand into the world makes that even more so. Yeah. But I remember when a girlfriend of mine, whose father was a jazz guitarist, Wilbur Longmire.
I can't even believe you mentioned that name. I had one of the former guitarists on from Earth, Wind & Fire, Sheldon Reynolds, and he was talking about Wilbur.
Oh, of course.
Yeah.
Cincinnati.
Yeah.
I grew up with Sheldon. His mom used to make us peanut butter and jelly sandwiches in the basement. So yeah, Wilbert's daughter is the one that took me to my first band gathering. And that's where I got a hold of like the Al Jarreau stuff, the Jean-Luc Ponty, the Pat Metheny, and it just seeped all the way down in my soul. And so by the time I got to my idol, which was Chaka Khan, we were able, there was one night, I don't remember any of the lyrics, and I think we recorded it, but I don't know what was happening that night. But she and I actually wrote lyrics to all of Miles Davis's horn lines in tutu. We wrote the whole album.
I know Miles loved Chaka, but let's go back a little bit because I wanted to talk about those teenage years. Now, I understand that you won a teen pageant. You were singing some George Gershwin Summertime and read some Maya Angelou. Tell me about that.
You have done your homework. I did everything in like a 2.5-minute segment. I mean, I played piano, I read some Maya Angelou, I did dance, and I sang. and I won. I did. I piled everything into a 2-minute segment.
Yeah, yeah, that's beautiful.
You know? Yeah, that was a pageant that's been around for a long time, Talented Teens, which was really Miss Black Teenage America.
Yeah.
And I don't know why the man's name is slipping my mind right this moment, because I didn't know you were going to ask me about that pageant. But I started out doing that. I started out doing anything. I had so much energy when I was a kid. I was ADHD, OCD, all that stuff, you know, gifted, whatever you want to call it. So my grandmother knew that she had to put that energy into whatever she could. So I was in drill team, marching band, junior orchestra, jazz choir, cheerleading, volleyball, African dance, whatever. I was just always marching or twirling something, you know what I mean? So it's just kind of, but then church, I'm Kojic, which is Church of God in Christ, which is now where everyone goes shopping for their band members. Because we, you know, like that's the training and a half right up in there. Yeah. You know, you got people like Roman Johnson, who was basically like Stevie's second set of hands now. And we all grew up in church. So, you know, when the music starts, you better do something. And you have to, we learned at an early age how to tap into the serotonin and the oxytocin levels of people and make them pass out and do all that kind of stuff. So I horned in most of those skills to be able to control a stage in church, actually.
That's incredible. Now, you know what I found interesting, when you were a teenager, I guess 14 years old, I read that you snuck in a club and you, I guess, got hooked up with the band Zap.
Ooh, what article did you read? What research material did you have, honey? No, but actually that was Sharon Longmire, Wilbur Longmire's daughter. I had like a good angel and a bad angel. I had one older friend, and she taught me how to fill out job applications, how to cook, how to do all those things. And Sharon taught me how to go to band rehearsal, and they would take me in the club. They would sneak me in the club with a fake ID, because back then you could do that. You know? And clearly, I mean, I'm 5'1" now, so I know I must have looked, you know, but I sang so well that they would let me in, and they would have like gong shows. You remember the gong show? Oh yeah. And I would win every week, you know. So literally at 14 years old, I was sitting on a stool with a double cognac and a cigarette, mimicking this lovely lady right here, Miss Billie Holiday.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
At 14, I had no reason to be, you know, like down, depressed, sing about pain. I didn't know nothing about the blues, but I could sing it and I could feel it. So yeah, I was doing that at 14.
That's amazing. Now, I guess after you started working with Zap a little bit, that must have been a game changer for you, because they I guess they were like opening for Parliament Funkadelic when they were doing their world tour. So you got a chance, what 79 or 78, to do a world tour with that group, Zap? Wow. I
did. I mean, More Bounce to the Ounce was just blowing up. Yeah. And we were, you know, Cincinnati, Dayton area. We were just like, and I can't even remember how they got my name, but actually Roger and Larry, the two that are deceased, rest their soul, they picked me up they wanted me to replace the singer that they had at the time. I think at the end of the day, it didn't work out because they were trying to figure out, now, how do we take a 14-year-old on the road with Parliament Funkadelic? Yeah, yeah. And I was hanging. I was there for the music. I didn't care what crazy stuff happened around me, as long as the music was happening, you know. And I did go on that world tour, that World Parliament Funkadelic tour with Roger as he was becoming a big star. So that was an amazing memory.
Yeah,
I had to go back and finish school. I had to go back and finish school, you know.
Yeah,
I couldn't do anything.
You know, and like I said, I guess the 80s rolled around, and I guess you have a name and people are starting to, you know, who is this young lady? But I was checking some stuff out with you, you know, when you wrote those songs, Change Your Wicked Ways and Dangerous. And I'm watching the video, and I'm like, I said, look at Todd Bridges and Stoney Jackson up in there. And I said, check her out. You started out, you were doing your dance and everything. And I thought it was fantastic. I mean, to come out with, I guess that was your debut recording, right?
It was. Well, you know, they say that necessity is the mother of invention. And, you know, I mean, I see all kinds of technology now involving things that I was doing back in the day, just by putting two old tape recorders together, you know what I mean? So now we possess the technology to be able to do that, but I was doing it by scratch. But I was with Total Experience Records. They weren't the best at paying people, because actually Lonnie Simmons, the president of that company, and he may very well have had a point. You know, he was just like, when they don't have no money, they write such brilliant songs. And you know what happens when you get black folks some money. It's kiss my black behind time. You know what I mean? I ain't writing that, and I ain't going to no studio. So that's how he kept us, you know, pumping out really, really good stuff. Is just by just giving just enough money to afford pizza. And so when it came time to do that video, it was like right at the beginning of videos. And I had been dancing on Soul Train, because that's kind of what you did if you were a Hollywood kid. Because I was 16 when I got to LA. And if you were a Hollywood kid, you lined up at A&M Records on Sunset and La Brea on Saturdays, and you danced on the floor, and you hoped to, you know, get seen. And for a 2-piece Kentucky Fried Chicken dinner, and all of us were lined up for it. And so I had all those friends. I had no budget for the video. I guess they used the budget that they were getting on the cameras and all that kind of stuff. But I didn't have any budget for talent, so I had to use my friends. So I went and got all my little friends from Soul Train. Hey, I want to be in a video. And, you know, Shabba-Doo was actually in that video. And Todd and Stoney, they were my crew. You know, I was hanging out with them. And Todd was considerably younger than me. Well, not considerably, but you know, he was a bit younger than me. He was still, but well, maybe he wasn't. I don't know. He's
actually only a year younger than you, believe it or not.
Am I?
Yeah.
Because I keep forgetting that I was also a teenager around those times, because I felt so much older than them. Yeah. I remember Todd, you know, he just got famous. Different Strokes was out. You know, I just remember knowing he was like 19 with a big old huge house and all this kind of stuff, you know. And so I always felt older than him. I don't know why. I know Stoney's probably, and I've just reconnected with Stoney, but they were my running buddies. And so I just called Todd. I was like, bring your Mercedes. And I told Stoney, bring your motorcycle, and we're going to do this video. So I got all the talent in that video. It was from all my friends, all my Hollywood friends. And, you know, I was able to get them to do it just for the fun of it, because it was at the beginning of the video phase. But, you know, it was one of those moments at Soul Train where one of the dancers from the floor, one of the insignificant dancers, actually made it to the stage. So that was really good. And I'm still in touch with a lot of those people, a lot of my Soul Train friends and all that kind of stuff. It's been a journey.
Yeah, it was beautiful. And like I said, you just had the presence and everything in it. And now, how'd you get to work with the Gap Band? You did a little bit of what, background vocals with them?
Interesting story there. Well, no, we were on the same label. I actually, I did a couple albums, vocals on their albums. But when I got to LA, I didn't know you were supposed to have a tape or a picture or anything like that. I just sort of walked down Sunset Boulevard and walked into the front door of every record company and said, I can sing, who do I talk to? to the receptionist. I started with her, and I got down to Sunset in Argyle, which was the Motown building. And incidentally, I met Robert and Rodney Gordy, and we lost Robert last week due to and Robert is the nephew of Berry Gordy, and Robert Gordy Jr. And I met Robert and Rodney, and they had a little bar on the first floor, which was where all the lawyers, all the business people, everybody from Motown would go down there and eat lunch, and then go after work for, a quick, like happy hour. And so I would go there every day. And so Rodney and Robert took me to their aunt, Anna Gordy Gay. And Anna gave me a job singing demos for Joe Bett. So that's what I did, because I've learned about my brain over years is that my brain processes in patterns. So I was like this kid that could sound, that can embody any singer. So if you're a writer and you had a song for Gladys, I could go in and sing it exactly like Gladys would, so that when she hears it, she would hear herself in it, So that was my kind of wheel set at the time. And I did that, but it became clear to me that Berry wasn't going to sign me, first of all. Yeah. And then, they were, making some all kind of strange deals. So I said, well, let me hit the streets again, hit the pavement. And so I started walking around Hollywood, and I saw these Black people standing outside of this building. I was like, oh, they look like friendly people. And it happened to be Total Experience Studio, and that was the Gap Band. Wow. So I went there every day until somebody let me sing. And the president of the company was just like, who's this girl talking around? She sings. Okay, you can sing. He said, well, I'm going to give you some studio time. I'm going to give you one day. And he said, I'm going to even send some guys from the Gap Band over to help you. And nobody showed up. Oh. So I looked at the engineer, who was probably a second or training engineer. And I said, do you play anything? He said, I play a little guitar. It's like, go get it. And so I told him, I was like, hook up these machines. We had that was right at the beginning of the DX7. That was like the beginning of all that stuff. Mm-hmm. So I knew how to make beats from banging out beats on my desk at school. When the teacher would walk out of the room, I'd get a good beat going and the whole class would join in and they'd be like, Penny. So I knew how to make beats. So I banged out some drum patterns, put some strings on, put some pads on, did all the vocals, and front vocals and backing vocals. And by the end of the day, I had 5 songs done. And he knew that he hadn't sent anybody to help me. So it was kind of a test. So at the end of the day, I had 5 complete songs done. One of those songs ended up on that album called Serious Love. And that's me just playing all the patterns. I play well enough to let the real players know what direction I'm going in. So yeah, I banged out 5 tracks. And so he signed me as a writer. And I was in the studio with Oliver Scott, who we call Gussie, who wrote Keep Running for Gap Band. And out of that studio session, we were in there and there was a Bible in there. And I started flipping through the Bible and I got to that scripture that says, if my people that are called by my name shall humble themselves and turn from their wicked ways. I was like, that's it.
Yeah. Second Chronicles 7:14.
So that's exactly where that came from.
Wow.
And when I got done with that song, Lonnie loved it so much. He was like, well, I'm going to sign you as an artist. So they had just signed a big distribution deal. It was right at the beginning of distribution deals with RCA. So they decided to package me with the Gap Band to go out. So me and Charlie hit the road. We were on the road doing promotional tour for a long time. But that's kind of how that thing happened. And guys from Yarborough and Peoples, helped out on the record. It was a good record. And you know what? I need to redo some of that stuff because actually Chicago has picked up some of that stuff because it's good two-stepping music, and Chicago's a two-stepper spot,
Yeah. I'm very impressed with your talent. I just mentioned earlier you being a multi-instrumentalist. And I think, what was it, your first record or on one or a couple of songs, you played all the instruments? I mean, you played keyboards, you played bass, you played drums. I think you played, flute too or something like that?
Yeah.
You bad sister.
I mean, I wasn't a prolific player. Because I told you I had ADHD and all these things. And so my focus wasn't great, but I knew what I wanted to hear. And I mean, even as a kid in my room, I learned, I could 3-part harmony all of Al Jarreau's percussive solos. So I ended up getting, I put him in my bio. I worked with Al as well.
Wow.
So I could totally, everything he did in Spain, I could do that in 3 parts.
That's amazing. You're gonna have to let me hear that. Now, I wanted to ask you, Penny, how'd you hook up with Climax?
Well, interesting. Great questions. Climax, because I was at Total Experience, I was signed to Total Experience. That album had come out, but Lonnie wouldn't give us no money, and I needed money. So I walked around the corner on Cahuenga to Solar. Well, actually, me and Lorena worked together as secretaries at some imprinted pens and pencil place or something in Hollywood. And we would go in the studio at night. We'd come in the next day and we'd swap cassettes, to hear what the other one was doing. So she got married to Will Shelby. And when she got pregnant, she could no longer do Climax. So they found me because I was that person that could step in and sound exactly like the person that's not there. I didn't have that kind of ego to I want to make this my own, And so, and I thought it was going to be a nightmare. I was on the road with 5 other women. That's not going to work for me. I know that's going to be a nightmare, but it was actually the most fun I've ever had on the road. And those girls started feeling themselves, but yeah, I went out replacing Lorena, and I was still signed on Total Experience. I didn't care. I was fearless. I was like, come get me. So that was a wonderful experience working with those girls. And of course, like I said, egos took over and they split up and all this and that and the third. But actually, Bernadette Cooper just released a song, 5 versions of a song that we did. But it wasn't back in those days. It was later because Bernadette knows she could call me and, I'll come in and lace everybody's stuff up,
Yeah. And Penny, you also had a short stint with the SOS band as well.
Yes, that was right after Climax. After Climax broke up, listen, I'm a believer. I'm a Jesus person. Something bigger than myself has been guiding my whole career, because I just kept going. I just went from one thing to the next. There was always opportunities opening up. There was also, as long as I came in the door with the goods, it was for me, they told me that they would have to pay me by the pound instead of by the hour. Cause I go in there, Chaka would be like, I'm only going to sing this once. If you want some more vocals on this thing, call Penny. And it was like a fun game to me. Ooh, I get to stack the vocals around Chaka. It's I didn't even know I was supposed to be getting paid. You know what I mean? I was having so much fun.
Right.
And I would come in there and lace that thing, and I'd look in the booth, and they'd just be standing there did she really? And it was just putting together a jigsaw puzzle for me. And it was give me another track. So I was able to do what 5 singers could do session wise in like an hour.
That's incredible. That's incredible. You know, like I said, just so impressed with you and your body of work. And I was about to ask you, you just mentioned Chaka Khan, one of the most important people in your music career. You guys are good friends and you guys sound alike too. I'm not kidding. When I listen sometimes I says, man, Penny sounds like Chaka and Chaka sounds like Penny. But tell me, how did you guys meet? Because it's such a great marriage collaboration between you two, and you can see the mutual respect and love.
Oh, I love her so much. I love her. That's my girl. Well, I'll tell you how I met Chaka Khan. I was 10 years old. I was coming from the public swimming pool. And an interesting fact is that that swimming pool was on the same street as L.A. Reid's house. So I'd actually just walked past L.A. Reid's house, and him and his brother Bryant. And I didn't know him then. I was 10, but it was on Carmel. Eventually, I ended up going to L.A. Reid's mama's house. It was his mama's house, actually. And I was coming from the swimming pool. And, you know, I don't know if you remember, but you come from the swimming pool and that chlorine will have you all thirsty and hungry. So you go by the store, have 50 cents, get your little pop, soda pop, get your little pickle and get your little bag of potato chips. Stop by there to do that. And I heard Tell Me Something Good. And it changed my life at 10 years old. And so from that moment on, my whole life was about Chaka Khan. She was the only person that seemed to present a challenge to me as a girl coming out of church or in church at the time. I don't know. It just grabbed me and like this. And so my whole childhood was learning every string line, every bass line, every drum riff, every vocal line, every nuance of every single Chaka Khan record. And it wasn't like I had to, you know, I wasn't studious about it. I learned it from just listening to it over and over again and just not being able to stop listening to it. I don't know what it is in the universe that put that in my spirit as a child. And so it was a long time before I actually got to meet her. I had several close encounters. In fact, one funny story was that, when I finished my Total Experience album, someone invited me to a Chaka rehearsal, which was like I didn't care about doing an album. I didn't care about having a record deal. I was like, I get to go to Chaka Khan's rehearsal. And so I went, and someone asked me, could I do backgrounds? And I was like, are you kidding? And so I actually went to my record company, went into Lonnie Simmons and asked him, can we please hold up my album release so I can go sing background for Chaka? He was like, are you serious? He was like, excuse my language, just like, get your crazy ass out of here. No, you're gonna release your first record and you're done. And you want to hold, it's like, I can't believe this. I've never had anybody come in and ask me to hold their album up so they could go sing background. But that's how much I never even envisioned being a solo artist. I mean, my whole life was about singing with her and the Emotions, the Jones Girls, the Chic Girls. They honed me in on my background skills. So I'm able to get in there and do the backgrounds. To me, it's all like, it's like pretending. Like when I was on the road with SOS Band. Well, that was my skating music. So it was really like my skating music. I'm singing it. You know what I mean? With Barry White, people like that, like he had a rule that if you made eye contact with him on stage, you're fired. Really? And I understood it because it's easy to get mesmerized. When you're on stage with Barry White, you're like up there like, I'm on stage with Barry White, and you're up there with a whole orchestra. And so you're not supposed to be looking at him. You're supposed to be looking at the band leader. You might miss your cue looking at me. You know what I mean? And, you know, Barry, they from South Central, you know, South Central. You can't be staring at them anyway. They don't like people staring at them.
I gotcha.
So, you know, that was a rule. Like, you couldn't get caught up in the fact that you're on stage with Barry White and you're looking at them and you missing what you got to sing. Pay attention to Jack, the concert master. So,
you know, Penny, one thing that I found quite interesting is, I guess Chaka, once you guys hooked up, she really depended on you and really liked you for sessions that she couldn't meet. And I guess one session that she missed that you were a part of, eventually what that turned into the you know, the group Snap.
Well, she didn't miss it.
Oh, okay. Okay.
You know, long story short, she and I had moved to London to kind of get our life straight, you know, because it was kind of crazy in LA at that point. I mean, I'm not saying anything that anybody doesn't know, but for the most part, you know, we're not programmable. So a 12-step program would not have helped us.
I got you.
We didn't go to rehab. So she, you know, like, we came up with this brilliant idea. Okay, we know what, we'll go to a place where we don't know anybody and we'll lock ourselves in an apartment until we get over it. And so we moved to London. And the two German producers, one who I saw today, I don't see them very often, but he stopped by my house earlier today. Love them, Luca and Michael. They called her and asked her, like, would you be interested in coming and doing this you know, project over here? And she said, clearly, she said, no, I don't do rap. She said, you go do it. And so here we are today. That's what happened. I came here at literally the very booth in the very studio that I sang that stuff in 31 years ago is literally a 10-minute walk from where I live right now. And it's still there. The studio's still there. The building's still there. There's some guys who do like television adverts in there. So I've actually gone in there and worked a couple of times. But I came over here for 3 days and sang the worst stuff I've ever sang in my life on some music I didn't understand, didn't even understand it to be music. It was noise. And I would have to tell you this, as a jazz person, if it had been up to me, that record would never, ever have been released. Because I didn't want you guys to hear it. You know, I was like, my friends are gonna hear this.
Right.
My Jeff Lorber, you know, Pat Metheny loving friends are gonna hear this. I'll never be able to show my face again.
Yeah.
You know, and I felt like that about it for a long time. You know, I was literally embarrassed. It took me a long time to understand the global responsibility that came along with that record. I mean, I meet people whose parents carried them across minefields in like wars, and on the other side was that song. I meet people who, you know, celebrating their 20th wedding anniversary, and that song was their song. Here in Europe, I mean, I work all over Europe. I work in places that most Black people will never, ever see.
Right.
All over Europe. I mean, I work in places, I have fans in places where I'm not even sure whether Black people can breathe, like the Faroe Islands and the Arctic Circle. Like, I'm asking my agent, like, are you sure I can even breathe up that far north? And they're trying to get me to go do these gigs. They're like, oh, we'll send you a helicopter. I'm like, nope, no rock star killers.
Penny,
we'll send you a private plane. Oh, you mean a Jay-Z and Beyonce private plane?
Right.
Or a Richie Havens private plane.
You know, I was just thinking, when I think of, you know, I mean, Power was just a game changer. That's like part of the culture now, and it's soon as people hear the first couple of like verses, they know, boom, Penny Ford, and that just blew you up. Just amazing, amazing. Something else
I told them, give me a bottle of champagne and a pack of cigarettes and turn on the mic. That's exactly how that entire album was done.
Wow. Incredible. How long did it take you guys to record that?
3 days, my part.
That's
3
amazing.
days. And in talking to the German producers, we were just laughing because they were remembering the day they finished mixing that album. And they slapped each other 5 and said, yeah, we'll be lucky to get 10,000 for this.
Amazing. Yeah.
So you never know.
You never know. Yeah.
And I spend a lot of time with my jazz friends just trying to say, with the musicality that you have, find a way to fit that into what people are going to accept. But a lot of the people in our camp, the jazz people, we spend so much time trying to impress each other that we ignore the people. And that's what we're there for. That's what we do. We actually are programming them. We're actually tapping into their serotonin levels. So I go into rooms on Clubhouse. I don't know if you're familiar with Clubhouse, but I was in a room there the other night with 4 doctors and 3 audiologists, and we were discussing the connection between science and music. Deep. And, like I got sometimes 150,000 people out there going like,
wow.
And, you really must understand that kind of connection. You can't just be up there. I'm not naming no names, but some of these singers, they just be up there singing. They have their eyes closed. They're just singing. And, they're the best singers. Like, I'm not the greatest singer out there, especially not after beating my voice to death for like 40 years. But it's not about being the best singer. It's about reaching those people, understanding the responsibility that you have and how you are biologically engaging and psychologically engaging with people. And when you do that, then you can, everybody's like, why she get picked?
I tell you, I know why you got picked. As far as reaching people, as you just said, when you came out with your recording, 93, that remake of Daydreaming, I just love it. But what my all-time favorite song by you is, and it's God's honest truth, I listen to it every day, is I'll Be There. I love that song reaches me, and I played it for one of my friends actually from the Philippines, and they fell in love with it. Just the way you sing that song, it's so beautiful. And I wanted to thank you for that. That's like my song. But
wow.
Daydreaming.
There's a history to that song. There's a history to that. That was supposed to be my big breakout song.
Yeah. I love it. Now, how did Chicago Bulls use that song? They hooked up and was using that song, I think, after their 2nd or 3rd championship, because I was watching an old video and I'm like, that was the first time I heard it. I said, who is singing that? And then I played it back again. Then I was looking for the credits. I says, Penny Ford. And, boom, I was hooked.
Yeah, that was a Klarman and Weber song. Well, I'll go ahead and mention the name. When I didn't understand nothing about business. I've been having so much fun doing the music. I thought it was all about the music. When really the music is only a tool. When you really get deep down into it, the music is just a tool that they can't put in a jar, so they figure out a way to extract it from us. And I didn't realize, there was a bidding war for me between Columbia and Elektra. And I chose Columbia because I wanted to do all the Lion King. I wanted to do all the big movies. I wanted to do big stuff. Celine Dion type huge stuff. And but what they presented to me first was some stuff that sounded like Snap. And I was like, I'm not signing with you if you want me to do more Snap stuff, which was my first mistake.
Right.
Because the Snap stuff was so big. I should have kept doing that stuff. It was so easy. But because I refused to do it, they created a group called CNC Music Factory.
Mm-hmm.
Right? So that would have been my stuff. That's the idea that the heads of Columbia had for me, but I refused. I was like, no, I am a real musician. I have to do real music with my real musician friends. That's how that album ended up having Gerald Albright on it, Vinnie Colaiuta, Greg Fillinganes, all my folks.
Yeah, heavy hitters, yeah.
But I didn't realize how much a lady named Mariah Carey had involvement in my project. I didn't realize it at all. And I mean, I forgot that Randy Jackson was her musical director. Mm-hmm. Then she married Tommy Mottola. So it was like, you know, then they started trying to throw all of her throwaway songs on my record. And I was like, wait a minute. And my integrity stepped in. Mm-hmm. My ego started talking like, we don't like her and we're not doing any of her songs. I actually went into meetings with her musical director and her husband and said, I refuse to do her songs.
No, you didn't.
I did. And cussed them out and walked on out. I didn't even realize who I was cussing out. I mean,
oh my God.
I was looking at that movie about Clarence Avant, The Last Godfather.
Yeah, yeah.
And I was looking at like how many people are in that movie that I cussed out for the integrity. I was like, oh, I didn't know it was that powerful. I had no idea. Mm-hmm. So I'll Be There was supposed to be my big thing. And then whatever Miss Mariah Carey did, you know, my album ended up getting squashed and she ended up coming out with an I'll Be There, which was a remake of the Jacksons. You know, they did all that kind of thing. So
yeah. I liked yours better. I'm serious. I loved it.
Well, I mean, it wasn't a copy. It wasn't a redo. Mm-hmm. It was, you know, it was a beautiful song.
Yes,
and
it was.
Wonderful. And I was, you know, like kind of mentally absent, you know, so to speak, during that time. As well. So I couldn't even really save myself, mm-hmm. you know. So that record got kind of buried where it was supposed to be huge, you know, probably due to some of my actions by being a staunch supporter of real music. I wasn't gonna let them do it. But I should have just did it, I guess. Yeah, but you know, things turn out like they do.
Things happen. And you've worked with other people too, like Johnny Gill. And didn't you do some stuff with Natalie Cole too?
Yes. Oh yeah, the Johnny Gill thing. I did all those vocals on the remix of Wrap My Body Tight. Mm-hmm. I did that with Jazzy B in London. I did 3 Soul to Soul albums. It wasn't supposed to be that, you know. I was going in there to do a session and Jazzy got, you know, in a bind. So he needed to use some of those demos and put them on records. And I worked on some stuff for Tina Marie actually also with him. Mm-hmm. But you said, okay, Johnny Gill, who else was that you mentioned?
Natalie Cole.
Oh yeah. Well, I worked a lot with Natalie's ex-husband, who was the first drummer of Rufus, Andre Fisher. And Andre was working with Brenda Russell, and, you know, that was my crowd. The Larry Williams, the Jerry Hay. I don't need to have, you know, Alex from Birdland, Acuna.
Oh, Alex Acuna?
Yeah, yeah.
You talking about percussionist Alex? Used to play with Weather Report?
Yeah.
He's been on the show. I've had Alex on. Yeah.
Yeah, Bill Champlin. Like I was writing with Joni Mitchell's ex-husband. I don't know why names aren't coming to me. You know,
It's okay.
You know.
It's okay.
But yeah. I'm Larry Klein.
Okay.
And I was writing. I didn't care about having no record deal. I was getting to write with the guys who made all the Giroux stuff, Al Schmidt, all those guys. I was like, I can't believe.
Did you work with Jay? Did you work with Jay Graydon too? Did you work with Jay Graydon too?
No, I did not, but I know exactly who that is.
You did a lot of stuff with Al Giroux and George Benson and those guys too.
Yeah. I know him more from the George Benson stuff. Mm-hmm. And then the George Benson stuff from the Wilbur Longmire, it goes back to my childhood. Right. And, you know, and then Bill Champlin.
Yeah, he wrote After the Love Is Gone. He wrote After the Love Is Gone with David Foster. Yeah.
Yeah, and he wrote Turn Your Love Around. Okay. And so I was so into hanging out with these musicians and writing and doing, I didn't realize I was supposed to be making money. I didn't know what was happening, you know. So I mean, you know, like it's amazing path. I actually have rubbed shoulders with those people, and just to be considered in a room with those people meant that I possessed a certain skill set that made me acceptable to the crowd I love. Now, I don't know nothing about 90s dance music, European pop. I don't know nothing about that. But I know from church, when the music starts, my ego's whispering in my ear, you better do something.
No, I
want to look bad.
I definitely like to hear you do like a straight ahead jazz album, maybe singing some Wayne Shorter tunes or something like that.
Ooh.
You know,
that would be my dream. I would love doing that.
Yeah. And you know what? I'm surprised you didn't work with Maurice White and Earth, Wind and Fire. I think you would have collaborated really well with them, because you see what he did with the Emotions and Denise Williams. I think he could have done something for your career.
Well, I was already in it by the time, you know, like by the time all of that went down, you know, like they were kind of, I think, you know, when I was working, Maurice was winding down. And by that time, I was already working with Chaka. You couldn't pull me away from her.
Right.
You know, people tried to steal me away from her. Natalie Cole's people. The Natalie Cole thing. That was from working with Andre Fisher, who was her husband, and he would call me in. I also arranged all of the vocals for Chaka's Woman I Am, and we weren't even speaking during that time. Like we were on the outs, you know what I mean? Just taking a break, and, you know, wasn't no beef or nothing, but it, you know, whatever it was. And they had me cracking up because I did that. I actually sang the demo of that for Gladys. I sang it the way Gladys would sing it and the way she would accept it. And I was out doing what I was doing with Snap, and they presented that song to Chaka, and she was like, I want that song. I want that song, and I'm gonna sing it exactly like that B that's singing it on there. Matter of fact, who is that B? And they said, Penny. She was like, damn it, I hate her. But I'm singing it exactly like. So that was the song, The Woman I Am, which is a Brenda Russell song, you know. And she sang it exactly that same way. And I did that same thing for that song, Gonna Make You Mine, and which went on the Natalie thing. But Natalie, my darling, she was my darling. She used to save me. She used to rescue me, because like I would be like say Umberto's of Beverly Hills in the hair salon. You know, I'm from Cincinnati. I'm regular. I ain't all Beverly Hills out. I will never be that. And I'm sitting there kind of in the corner. You got Clarence Avant's wife over there, and you got these people, you know, and they looking at me like, but who is she? Because if she's in here, why is she here? Shouldn't she be sweeping the floors or something? You know, I'm sitting in the corner like, I don't know these people. And Natalie came in and she said, oh my God, it's Penny. Oh my God, gave me the biggest hug. She was like, oh my God, girl, I've been looking for you. My husband's been looking for you. They were really like looking like, ooh, well, who is she? I was like, thank you, girl. You really made me feel good.
Yeah.
That happened on Clubhouse the other night. Actually, I was in some room, some music room with young people. And I didn't think they knew, you know, I mean, I was being all inconspicuous. And the guy, you know, these guys work with all these new, you know, like Drake and all this and that and the other.
Right.
And I just snuck in the room and was just listening. And they called one guy, they gave him all these accolades. They were like, oh, and he's great, and he's done this, and he's worked with that, and da 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 da, and he's on the top of the game, and the Grammy, you know, whatever. And they said, well, we would like to hear him speak. And he came on the microphone, and he said, the first thing I want to do is pay honor and respect to the most iconic person in this room. And that woman is paid for it. Blah, blah, blah. I was like,
wow.
Me? I'm just a girl from Cincinnati. Sometimes I forget. I do forget. I ride the train here. You know, there's no reason for me to have a car. So I do a lot of walking because it helps me keep my fitness up.
Yeah.
And, you know, I take the train because it's just easier than trying to find a parking space sometimes. You know what I mean?
Penny, let me ask you about that. What made you move to Germany? I'm curious. Because I guess your first time you were there was when you went with Chaka back in the late 80s?
Well, yeah, you know, I did do a tour here in the late 80s, and it was Chaka, Mother's Finest, and Frankie Beverly and Mays, man. Whoa, that was a brilliant tour. A brilliant tour. When I think back, I was like, it's one of those ones like, I wish I was on that tour. Wait a minute, I was on that tour.
Right,
but Frankfurt, like I told you, I lived 10 minutes, literally 10 minutes from walking from the actual studio I recorded the Snap thing in. The producers lived here. It's the central hub of Europe. So, you know, if you're traveling through Europe, this is probably the best place to live. And the most important thing, Frankfurt is the sister city of Cincinnati, which is a very German city. So Frankfurt is just like Cincinnati, only with, you know, mostly all Germans and stuff. But it's in landscape, in architecture, in aesthetic, in every way. Cincinnati's a very, very German town. So it's almost like being at home. Interesting.
So I'm just curious, what is Penny Ford working on now? What's next for Penny Ford?
What is Penny Ford working on? I'll tell you what, I have been taking a well-deserved 1.5 year nap. Oh my God. I love it. I was praying to God just for a break. I was asking for 2 weeks. God was like, let me watch this little pandemic I'm gonna throw at you. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
So, I mean, you know, like there's so many things that I've become aware of. It's given me so much time to even search back into my childhood and into my life and my family and the things that you know, that are important. And it has made me get outside of that box that I was used to, you know, of, okay, we got to go to the airport, go to the gig, do this, you know, of touring. So I have done some studio sessions. In fact, I've done some remote sessions. I did a thing for a Stevie Wonder project, and they send me the tracks here, and I go in the studio with a very cool, half German, half Nigerian dude who loves old school R&B from America. So he works well with me and he has a great studio. So I did that. I did a session with this painter, and he's touted as the new Basquiat, or Basquiat, however you pronounce his name. And he's, and I think he's from Turks and Caicos originally. But he has like a Puma shoe deal, and he designed the artwork on David Beckham's liquor bottle, and I think he's got a deal with Rolls Royce. So I was like, sure. So you know, when people start blowing up like that, everybody want to make a record.
Right.
You know? I toured with Steven Seagal. You know, me, Billy Preston, Bernard Fowler from Rolling Stones, Kate Mount Brown. A few of us went out on the road because he wanted to be. We were in that movie Ticker as well. And he wanted to take that act on the road, you know what I mean? Because he wanted to just pretend he was a great guitar player, I guess. You know, he's like that. Sometimes he's a llama. You know, sometimes he's a cop, sometimes he's a karate guy. You know, I mean, he's just so yeah. So this guy, this painter, come up with a brilliant. He wants to do an album, you know, that complements his painting. So they sent me this track, and it was just like my old skating records. So I dug back in my brain and pulled out my my Chic, Alpha, and all the girls that sang with Chic, those backgrounds, and the Jones Girls and the Emotions, those backgrounds and stuff. And I laid that shit out. They love it. So hopefully this record will do. I'm sorry. Is this a family show?
Honey, you are fine. No, you're fine, Penny. You're fine.
Yeah. So I've done that studio wise. I've also aligned myself a partnership with a branding and marketing company. They found that they went into TikTok because they got all these young people that work with this company. And they went into TikTok and found like all these thousands of videos that people have done, TikTok videos that people have done on the power. So I'm working on different ways of leveraging that than just being on stage, running around, jumping, kicking, running, spinning, dropping it down, doing my best old lady Beyonce. So they're blowing me up on like TikTok and all that kind of stuff right now. So reluctantly, as an old lady, you know, hey, you can't beat them, you got to join them. And this business is completely different now. Yeah. And that's what I try to tell all my jazz friends, like, I love y'all and I will always have, but there's a huge divide between music and music business.
You know, you just hit on something very important. About a month ago, I had a panel with like Lenny White, Frida Payne, Dee Dee Bridgewater, Gary Bartz, all these people. We were talking about 20th century musicians trying to negotiate in the 21st century. I should have had you on that panel. We had a really interesting discussion. And
well, do another one. Do another one.
I'll probably
I'm over here. I'm over here and I'm mixed up with these kids. You know, I'll be on it. You know, like I know exactly what they're doing. The TikTok videos, you know.
I was going to ask you, do you get to the United States often? Do you visit or come back home, Penny?
Pre-COVID, everything now is pre-COVID and after COVID. Every year. And I have a resort that I go to in Negril, Jamaica, every single year for 35 years. Every single year. Whatever I need in my life, I need to get over, I go there and cast it out into the universe. It's called Grand Lido, by the way, shameless plug, in Negril, Jamaica. And I mean, I actually go there, I build a big spliff, I get butt naked, I get a big drink, and I stand out and be one with nature. So I'm going to be doing that in September with my family. Actually, my sister, I took my sister. And my sister, well, of course not Sharon, but my other sister is just turned 82. She's a retired judge. And I took her to Jamaica and it changed her. It's the most fun she's ever had in her 82-year-old life. And so we're going back in September.
Okay, sounds good. Well, listen, I want to thank you so much for being on Jazz Talk today. It's been an honor just hearing about your life, you know, sharing these stories. And thank you so much. Well, hang on. I'm about to close out the show, Penny.
Sorry about that. Sorry,
it's okay.
That was someone trying to call me. You know what I mean?
It's okay. That's
sure
okay.
My phone's gonna be ringing. Happy birthday.
Well, you've heard it from the great Penny Ford. And as the saying goes, if the music grooves and makes you move, it must be jazz. I'm Preston Williams with Jazz Talk signing off. Peace.